I'm making this video to hopefully prevent a whole lot of people from going down a very dangerous pipeline. So I'm gonna be very bold with it up front. Lust is a dangerous thing. And this goes both ways for any young men and women watching. Lust is such a dangerous thing that I don't even think we internalize how dangerous it is until it comes in the way of everything we want. To set a basis for this, I'm gonna give you an example. Imagine I have a homeboy. Let's say his name's Tom, right? And Tom, what he's looking for happens to be a woman of God who's very studious, who's very driven, who wants a lot of things out of her life, who's very much passionate about what she wants to go for, and who has love to spare for the love of her life, essentially. And Tom wants to be that woman's love of their life, right? But Tom has a problem. He's not able to properly discern who that love of his life will be because all he sees the women around him for happens to be their body, happens to be their attractive features, happens to be this law of primal instinctual attraction that drives him to not know them for their soul, for the morals, for the very values that he's looking for, but he comes to know them for the pleasure that seeing their body provides, for the pleasures that come with a certain level of intercourse, for the pleasures that come with entertaining lust rather than love. And through that dilemma, Tom will never find what he's looking for. Sounds tough, doesn't it? That's a dilemma many of us are going to face in Generation Z and beyond, I would argue. And it's not because we don't have a choice. It's because we chose to ingrain this level of promiscuity into our culture. Because let's be honest, how many do we see just casually joke about starting an OF account? How many people do we see just casually walking around with next to no clothing? How many people do we see actively entertain this culture of disrespecting the boundaries of young women if they are young men, or young men if they are young women? Because no double standards here. This can go both ways. Granted, it's not my experience, but I truthfully can believe that some young woman out here can be lusting after a man who does not have any of what they are looking for, purely based on the fact that, hey, it's primal, it's instinctual, it's in our human nature, rather than what we know is in our spiritual nature. And I'd say it comes down to one simple thing. It's not necessarily that you want to lust after this person for the physical attributes. It's that you want them to embody certain spiritual attributes. You want to maintain or create a level of intimacy with a person that you would be able to call, a partner or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, anything of that nature. But you're in this headlock where you can't look beyond that physicality. You can't look beyond that surface level attraction. You can't look beyond the things that you can only see, that you can only feel through this manufactured chemical engineering of dopamine, rather than what you know you are looking for in somebody deep down. That is what makes lust dangerous, people. Because it makes you feel the same things as love. It makes you see the same things as love. It makes you acknowledge the same things that love would make you acknowledge. But it will send you down two very different paths. Because if you purely put your focus towards loving somebody, you would come to accept them for their inner qualities, for their flaws, for their imperfections, and all that makes them who they are. Sounds nice. But if your time is spent lusting after somebody, you will only be able to see them for their physical attributes, for their surface level traits, for their baseline responses, and for the facade of the personality they show to the world, rather than who they really are. That is the difference between those two paths. And if you happen to be anybody who struggles with that sort of pipeline, here's what you're going to do. It starts with what you consume. Scroll your feeds. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Whenever you see something that can trigger that part of your brain that just wants to lust, leave. It'll feel good. Yeah, sure, it's a good feeling, but it's not a perpetually good feeling. That's the difference. It's a good feeling in that moment, but ask yourself, would a version of you in 5 minutes be feeling just as good? A version of you in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, a year. Ask yourself that. In a very short period of time in the future, would you feel the exact same? No. I'd be willing to bet you'd feel worse. Whereas with feeling perpetually good, with genuinely trying to see the qualities in people, even if they aren't romantic interests, even if they're just your friends, if you delve into seeing the genuinely good aspects of people, that is a perpetually good feeling, because you are building on a skill. You are building on social capital. You are building on emotional intelligence. You are building upon skills that are useful for everybody in your life, including the one that you may want to call the love of your life. That's what makes that useful. So that's one thing, tailoring what you consume. Second, the ideas you express. Because ask yourself, how do you talk about your romantic interests? Do you find yourself discussing, their beauty, not much beyond the surface, or do you find yourself discussing the qualities that attract you to them, the inner traits that you see, that you admire, the way they push you to embody the best parts of yourself? If you notice that in a person, even if it's not a romantic interest, that's something that's worth exploring. That's something that's worth fleshing out. So be careful what ideas you are expressing to other people about lust or love. And third, I'd say, is what you create. Because regardless of whether we all don't want to admit it, we can all create something. Even if you're not sitting here filming a YouTube video like right now, like I am, you could be creating a fan fiction right now. Or maybe your own book. Maybe your own art piece. Maybe a short story. Maybe a spoken word poem. Maybe even something totally out there and off kilter, like a tapestry. What do you express in what you're creating? Is it a temporary feeling? Or are you creating aspects of things that are going to last? It's worth it to ask yourself about those three things, because that is how you can build your love for yourself, for your friends, for your family, and for everybody around you, rather than rely on lust to feel anything at all.